This is the Player Position Podcast, where we huddle up, call the plays, and inspire you to run your ball into the end zone. Are you ready to score more game-winning touchdowns in your life, business, and career? Then listen up, because it's game time, baby. Now, here's your host, Mary Lou Kaiser.
All right, team, it's confession time. I have a really hard time giving away and getting rid of old clothes. It's been like this for as long as I can remember, and I trace it back to growing up in a home where I was presented with hand-me-downs, and also where my mom sewed a lot of the clothes that my brother and I wore every single day. When I was younger, I didn't know any better, so the clothes Mom made for me were just fine. In fact, I had a pair of pink pants that I absolutely loved. One day, unfortunately, I sat down on some railroad ties wearing those pink pants and ruined them forever with the tar that attached itself to the pants right on my butt. I was so upset. I did not want to lose those pants because they truly were my favorite. Now, by the time I was in 5th grade, wearing clothes Mom sewed for me became a problem. I was teased about my lack of fashion. All the cool girls were wearing Levi's jeans, and there I was showing up in polyester bell-bottoms based on a McCall's pattern I had picked out at the fabric store. I associate the awkwardness and shame I felt when I was teased for wearing the clothes that I had with my reluctance to get rid of really, really nice clothes that fit me well when the time comes to do a clean out of my closet. Now, I want to talk about the hand-me-downs for a minute because that plays into this equation as well. When it came to hand-me-downs, they never fit. I would see the pile that Mom brought home from the church, and there were always things that I thought were really pretty. Things like satin dresses and lacy blouses that I so desperately wanted to wear. I would try them on, and they just wouldn't fit. They would either be too tight under my arms, I wouldn't be able to get them over my head. I remember one particular white satin dress that I wanted so badly, and I managed to wiggle into it, but as soon as I stuck my arms through the armholes, it ripped right up the back because it was too small. It was so frustrating. So as an adult, I have been notorious for buying a lot of new clothes and holding on to them perhaps for a little too long. Outside of the 2 years when I was pregnant with my kids, I haven't really changed that much in terms of my size, which means that clothes that I bought even 10 or 15 years ago still fit me. And because I have timeless taste, a lot of the clothes that I bought 10 or 15 years ago are still decent, because I don't wear my clothes out. And I hold on to things. I like new things. And when I don't get rid of old things, that means my closets become more and more packed. And I sometimes stand there in front of these packed closets and ask myself, really, are you really going to wear this, and that? Eventually, the day does come when I have to say goodbye to certain clothes in my closet just because I need room for the new ones I'm buying. Now, I want to tell you a quick story about some ball gowns that I had. I wore each of those ball gowns one time, and I had an amazing evening wearing each of those ball gowns. Evenings I remember fondly to this day. Those ball gowns hung in my closet as memories and also markers of times in my life that I really loved. I knew when I bought those ball gowns that I was only going to wear each one time. Still, I held on to them. Like I just said, another thing that I do with my clothes is I attach an era of my life to my clothes. I also attach a night of my life to my clothes. My thinking goes that if I get rid of those clothes, I'm somehow getting rid of the experience I had when I was wearing those clothes, or perhaps even worse, I think that I'm getting rid of that time in my life, which is completely illogical. But if you've ever read any of the work by Dan Ariely, the behavioral economist who talks a lot about irrational behavior when it comes to buying things and when it comes to keeping things, you know that I am not alone in this kind of thinking. So these ball gowns hung in my closet year after year after year, and I would not let go of them. Finally, the day came, after doing some deep emotional house cleaning on myself, I realized how absurd it was for me to hold on to these gowns that I was never going to wear again. I also recognized that I had wonderful photographs of all the evenings in which I wore those gowns, and I could consign the ball gowns. I could give them away, give someone else a chance to wear those beautiful, beautiful dresses. And so that's what I did. It was easy once I made the decision, but I hemmed and hawed a long time before finally loading them into my car with a pile of jackets and dresses and pants and shirts, all associated with a certain time in my life, but all things that I knew I was not going to wear again because I was buying new things. It was really, really hard for me to acknowledge that I wasn't going to wear those clothes anymore, and that the times of my life when I was wearing them were over. But by getting rid of them and letting go, I opened up space in a lot of different ways. Of course, the physical space in the closets, and also the emotional space for me to bring in new experiences, not be thinking of the past so much. Forgiveness is a lot like getting rid of the clothes in your closet you don't wear anymore. Doesn't matter why. Maybe they don't fit, they've gone out of style, you've done a complete rebrand of your look, you've bought a whole bunch more clothes and you just don't have the space for the old stuff. The point is, they are now gone, freeing up space for what you do love, what you do wear, space for what really matters. Letting go of old clothes is like letting go of old hurts and old grudges. They aren't serving us yet because they are familiar to us, and maybe because we like how our closet looks, stuffed with things despite half of what's in there never being used. We become comfortable with those items and we hold on to them. The same can be said of the emotional baggage that we're holding on to. I'm making this parallel between getting rid of old clothes and forgiveness because as we round out the month of February, I want to spend a couple of days talking about forgiveness and the power of forgiveness especially. I want to give you a little bit of context. One of the universal laws is the law of forgiveness. So when we look at that law, here is what it essentially says. The law of forgiveness states we cannot be forgiven until we forgive others. As long as we harbor negative thoughts of anger, judgment, hatred, and intolerance against others, we cannot be happy simply because while we harbor those feelings, we feel the results of them. To be happy and free, we have to give up all unforgiving thoughts. Now, that's a very simple explanation of the law of forgiveness. It's enough for what I'm talking about today. I'm going to read it again and then come back to the parallel between holding on to things like clothes, like emotions, and the letting go that can free us. So again, the law of forgiveness states that we cannot be forgiven until we forgive others. As long as we harbor negative thoughts of anger, judgment, hatred, and intolerance against others, we cannot be happy simply because while we harbor those feelings, we feel the results of them. To be happy and free, we have to give up all unforgiving thoughts. When somebody does something to us that really hurts, that betrays our trust, that letting go of the pain those betrayals cause in us can be very, very hard, because our natural instinct is to want to hold on to it until the other person suffers too. We want to seek revenge. We want to see them in pain to the degree that we experienced pain from when they wronged us. But like those clothes in my closet, like those ball gowns, hurts and betrayals and losses of trust are just taking up extra space in our lives. Oftentimes, they represent moments in time, and we have a choice about whether or not we hold on to them. Letting go and freeing ourselves through intentional forgiveness is one of the most powerful experiences you can have, because you almost immediately open up space to feel happier, to feel freer, to feel less bogged down by the past and memories of the past. The quality of your life, your happiness, all of it is going to go up. Out of sight, out of mind. I honestly don't think about those ball gowns anymore, not the way I used to, because I freed myself from the attachment that I had to them when I intentionally gave them away and let go. Now, like I said, I had to work up to letting go, just like sometimes you have to work up to forgiving someone. But listen, I'm here to tell you that finding it within yourself to give someone who has wronged you, or forgive something like the pandemic and all the hurt and change it has caused, things like shelter in place and having to wear a mask that none of us asked for, none of us wanted. Holding on to that anger doesn't serve you. In fact, it can cause tremendous harm. It can literally begin to choke you and crowd you out of this amazing open experience that you can have in life. And I get how hard it is to acknowledge that things have changed in a big way, that you've been hurt, that you've lost. Being angry and bitching and moaning and blaming can feel good temporarily, just like going back in your mind's eye of memories, like I did when I would look at those ball gowns and think about, oh, I just love that time in my life. Oh, there were those people and there was that thing and all that stuff. That was a neat way of feeling good temporarily. But again, that burden you carry by being angry, by being resentful, by harboring bitter feelings, by holding on, it's not healthy in the long run. It's just not. I, for the longest time, thought that if I got rid of those dresses, it meant I was somehow erasing an experience I'd had in my past. And it's actually the opposite. By getting rid of those gowns, those experiences became even more meaningful to me. I didn't need the token to remind me that I'd had them. Forgiveness also opens up channels. It frees you from the burden of carrying so much weight about something that happened in the past, whether it was yesterday or decades ago. So if it helps you to think of past wrongs as old items in your closet that you no longer wear, that you'll never wear again, that they represent a moment in time, and that's it, nothing else. And if you give them away, you get them out of your house, there is a lightening of the load. Forgiveness may not always be easy. You may stand in front of that metaphorical closet and say, I don't know if I can let go of this. That hurts so badly. I don't know if I can forgive so-and-so. What they did to me was just so awful. I get that. It is not easy. I will tell you that once you've done it, you're probably going to wonder why it took you so long. In tomorrow's episode, I'm going to talk about self-forgiveness, which is probably the hardest of all. For now, remember, team, it is always a great day to get out there and play your position. This is Mary Lou Kaiser. We'll see you next time.
Got a great key offensive strategy you like to share? Write to us at coach@pyppodcast.com or on Twitter, use #PYP and let us know how you're running your ball into the end zone for those game-winning touchdowns.